Hey siblings, and welcome back to my channel. It is your girl TAIregriffin. I'm so glad that you have decided to stop back here for another episode of Hanging With Me. Thank you to all my new subscribers and my old subscribers. Thank you for all of you that shared this video. Shared, not this video, but the videos prior. Yes, I'm so glad that you guys are here. So this is part 4 of our relationship series. I'm not sure if we'll have any more after this, but today is number 4. And we're going to talk about the 5 telltale signs that you are ready to start dating. Have you questioned and wondered, when is it going to be my season? When is it going to be my time? Year after year, you see people posting, this is my year to get my man. This is my year to be married. And you see them and they're still not married. And you're like, what's going on? Or maybe it's just you. You're like, God, what is going on? When am I going to be ready to start dating? Am I ready now? God, should I jump out there? Maybe that's been some question that you've been asking yourself. So I'm really excited about this video on today. But before we get into that, please put in the comment section your name and your city that you're watching from. I'm really excited because in 2019, I am accepting bookings international, nationally, and I want to know what city you are in. I want to be able to be acquainted with you here on the videos, as well as probably meeting you in person and we linking up. So sibling, how will I know you if I don't even know where you're from or where you're watching from? So yes, put that in the description, the comment section below. And I think that's all for now. And let's get into this video. Okay. So here are 5 telltale signs that you are ready to start dating. Okay. Number 1, you are living in purity. So number 1, purity. Now I know people talk about sex is always the part of purity that we're always talking about, but you need to be pure in your emotions. You need to be pure in your spirit. You need to be pure in your emotions, mentally, physically. But what I want to talk about today is sexual purity. But in order to be ready, or to know that you're ready, is when you're in a place where you're practicing sexual purity. Now, sometimes people practice spiritual purity for the wrong reasons. You may be pure because you don't want to get a baby, or you may be pure because you don't want to get an STD. Those 2 things, and I'm sure there's a many array of things why people are sexually pure, but are sexually abstaining. Not even pure, sexually abstaining. When you're sexually abstaining, there's nothing to anchor you when temptation comes. Like, just because you don't want to get a baby, all you gotta do is use protection. Or if you don't want to get an STD, use protection. That's really going to be your anchor for remaining abstinent. But if you are saying, I want to be sexually pure till my husband gets here, and it's because I want to please God, that's a whole nother thing. Because when you are practicing sexual purity because you want to honor God, it's your desire to honor God, which is going to keep you rooted. I remember reading one time, there was a quote from a book, and it says, my greatest motivation for purity is my relationship with God and to please Him. So for myself, you know, I've been abstinent or celibate or sexually pure. I say pure in comparison to sexually abstaining, because pure means like I'm completely pure, like my heart is pure, because whatever's in the heart the mouth speaks, or whatever's in the heart, whatever's in the mind, it goes to the heart, and whatever's in my heart begins to be my behavior. So my mindset is pure, therefore my whole life can be pure. But like I said, if you're just thinking I want to be sexually abstinent, you're not really practicing purity. You know what I'm saying? Because you're still doing everything else. So if you're not pure in certain areas of your life, you're not going to be pure there. Like, your purity comes from your divine connection with God, because He's the only one that can make us pure and cleanse us of all unrighteousness. So I want to make that distinction before we went any further. Sexual purity. So if you're not practicing sexual purity because you want to please God, if your reason for abstaining is not to please God, you are not ready to date quite yet. Okay? If you are not in a place where you have completely surrendered to God, I think this one goes under here. I gave up my desire for sex. I told God, because then I didn't tell God to take my desire away, because no, God, I'm gonna need that desire when I get married. I asked God to help me manage my desire. I gave it over to God. I gave my body over to God. February 2015 at the Give Myself Away conference, I said, God, I don't want to have sex anymore. I want to please you. I've done things wrong so many times, and I want to do things your way. I completely surrendered. And once I surrendered, it was God's power and his strength in me that keeps me from falling. So if you have not surrendered to God yet, about your sexuality and asking God to fill you in, like to not fill you in, if you haven't asked God to, if you haven't given your whole self over to God, you are not in a place where you're ready to date quite yet. Number 2, if you dealt with wounds and allow God to heal you, if you haven't dealt with your wounds yet, you are not ready to date. I remember when I was in Chicago, like I told you guys, and I was laying on the bed crying like, God, how could you let this? And I wasn't even crying because we broken up. I was crying because another relationship failed, and God told me, you have a father wound. You have a father wound. And that basically, I figured out later what that meant. It basically meant that I was trying to make every man my dad. I was trying to get them to fill a void that they could not fill. 1, because most of them didn't have a good relationship with their father. And 2, I was so broken. I was so hurt from my dad. And I was carrying this baggage into a new relationship. And I was demanding them to give me what only my father could have given me. I was demanding them to be the man in my life, to take care of everything. I was just putting a whole lot of pressure on them because I wasn't healed. I remember God also told me, he said, the guys aren't hurting you. You're hurting yourself because you're allowing this to happen. You're allowing the hurt to be your portion. You're allowing yourself to be hurt. Like, these men aren't hurting you because I'm trying to tell you what you need and what you don't need. But, you know, being young and, you know, knowing you know it all, like I know more than God, right? That was my mentality. I started putting myself in these relationships that he was ultimately trying to keep me away from. So if you don't deal with your wounds, if you don't deal with your mother wounds, if you don't deal with your father wounds, you bring this pressure into a relationship that's unnecessary. It's like you bringing bags and you dragging them and you're like, help me with my bags. Like being very demanding. And he's like, I'm not obligated to help you with your bags. You came into this relationship with all of that baggage. Before you go into any relationship, you definitely need to unpack, unload. I remember when God told me baggage is only a problem when you're going somewhere. So you need to check your bags and make sure that you've unloaded things that need to be dealt with. Like you like me, I'm an overpacker. If I'm going somewhere for 3 days, I got 7 outfits because I'm trying to figure out if we do this, if we do this, if we do this. I'm a horrible packer. And I end up having to pay more for baggage if I'm flying because I put so much stuff in here that wasn't even necessary, that I didn't even wear. So that's what it comes to being in a relationship. You got these wounds that need to be dealt with, and then you trying to go somewhere, you put this luggage on the scale and they're like, it's too much, and it costs you more. It costs you more of your happiness, it costs you more of your peace, and you're mad at him. You're not making me happy. Well, in a relationship, they're not supposed to make you happy. You're supposed to come in happy. You're supposed to come in with joy, because if you're asking this question, if you're a believer, God should be the center of your life. God should be center. So you should be spending time with him, and in his presence is fullness of joy, and at his right hands are pleasures forevermore. So you should have joy regardless of what this guy does or does not do, because you're a whole person. You know you're ready to date when you are whole, which is going to be number 4, but we'll get back to that. But you carrying around this luggage, empty out that bag before you try to come into this relationship. You want to be come in ready for new experiences. Like, I know they said sex should be exploration, not an exhibit. You showing him, this is what I like, this is what I like, this is what my last man did for me, this is what he did for me, and you got to do it like this. If you don't do it like doing all like comparison, no, empty those bags and make new memories with this new relationship. Don't come in there empty. Like, have things in the bag that are necessary that you're going to use, like your toothbrush, like your toothpaste, soap, different things like that. Those are things that you need that you cannot leave behind. So make sure that when you come into a new relationship, you have things in the bag that you need that you're definitely going to use. Not like 15 pairs of outfits and you come back home like, I didn't even touch it. That's like almost like you coming back after a relationship like, I didn't even use that. That wasn't even necessary. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have did this. I shouldn't have gone here. You know what I'm saying? Now you start to evaluate and learn how to pack better for your next relationship. Hope that makes sense. So number 3, if you're not living a life of submission, you are not ready to date. I remember when, like God, listen, when I tell you, God chastens those he loves, okay? God chastens those he loves. And I remember when I was watching Power and watching all those TV shows, God was like, if I'm telling you not to watch these TV shows, what makes you think that you're going to listen to your husband when you're trying to be in a place of submission? And most times we already do that. We already ignore God's voice because his word says do not practice fornication. But then we go out and we have sex and we practice fornication in these relationships, basically telling God that his opinion and what he wants has no weight in your life. And you end up listening to this relationship more than God, thus creating an idol. And God says, I will have no God before me. So either you gonna cut it off or I'm gonna cut it off. And God did that to me. God was telling me, don't do this. Don't be with this guy. And I'm like, nah, it'll work out. Like, God, we gonna figure this out. You know what I'm saying? And then God caused the relationship to fall apart. I mean, completely crumble. Have you ever like had water in your hands and you're trying to cup it, trying to make sure that you're going to be able to keep this relationship in your own power? And it was just running through my hands. I couldn't catch it fast enough because God said, and I remember being with guys and I would put them over God. Like I wouldn't go to church. Come on, y'all. If he wanted to do something, I wasn't going to go to church. If I was out late with him, I wasn't going to go to church in the morning. I wasn't listening to what God was telling me. Like this guy became my God. And God shut it down. When you are his child, he will shut it down. And some of us are in the place where we're begging God, like, give me closure. God, he left. I need closure. Sometimes these men don't know why they're leaving. They just know that they have this unction. It's not what it used to be. They're not enjoying it anymore. And they really don't know why they're leaving you. So you can't demand closure. They don't know. It's seriously God ripping this relationship away from you. It's seriously God removing this person out of your life because he ultimately knows. And if you will allow him and not go and chase after him, God will show you that sometimes you have to let go what you think is good so that he can give you his best. So you cannot hold on to these relationships so tightly that God can't make no interference. In that case, that guy's heart can definitely become hardened. Just like Pharaoh, let my people go. And you sitting there not letting them go, or he's sitting there thinking like, you know, I don't know what's happening. Let them go. Get up, Tiara. Get out of this relationship. Get up, whoever. Insert your name and get out of the relationship. And because you won't let it go, gotta harden the heart. And the people will leave anyways. I hope that makes sense. Like, they'll leave anyway. So I remember my ex, his heart was so hardened towards me. Oh, like, y'all, I was devastated. Because I couldn't understand why you want to leave me. Like, I'm doing all of this for you. All of this. And when you start having sex, I only had sex because sex made me feel secure. Sex made me feel like I was loved. Sex made me feel like I was wanted. And I gave the greatest part of me as a woman because I wanted commitment. And I didn't even get the commitment that I wanted in the end. Because we try so hard to be intimate. Like, sex for me was intimacy. And you have to destroy that belief system in your mind that sex, I have to have sex to be in a relationship. You have to destroy that mentality that sex gets me commitment. That's what I believe. So I would have sex in hoping for a commitment, wanting to be close to a guy because I didn't get no intimacy no other way. We didn't talk deep like that. Like, most of that wasn't happening. Like, men had this mentality that I don't express myself, so I wasn't able to get into his heart, which is true intimacy. So sex is where it was, where he opened up, where I felt like I was the closest to him. So destroy that mentality in your mind and be patient with God. Be patient with God. If you cannot honestly say in your heart, God, I'm willing to give up relationships if that's not what you want. I remember January 27th, I told God this plenty of times before, but I remember January 27th, I said, God, if I never get married, I'll never stop serving you. And that night, 2 people came to me with prophetic words about my husband. But it wasn't until I seriously said, God, because marriage isn't the end all be all. Marriage, you weren't born and created to be married. You were born for purpose. You were born to fulfill the assignment of God. And if your assignment requires marriage, God is definitely going to put that in your life. You're not going to miss out on it. It's not going to pass you by when you're walking in his will, and he knows that it's going to be necessary for what he wants to do in your life. God's going to marry you. But if you honestly cannot say in your heart, God, if I never get married, I won't stop serving you. And your mindset is, I got to get married. And if I don't get married, I'm just going to lose it. I'm not going to worship God no more. You're not ready to date. And you're probably not going to get married because God said he will not have no idols before him. None. And be patient with God. Like, it's his divine timing, not yours. God ultimately knows the perfect timing for your life. He knows what season that you're in, which we're going to get to in a minute. So be patient with God, because God doesn't want to give you a relationship that's going to take you away from him. Any relationship that distracts you is of the devil. Anything, like for me, like God has created such a structure in my life. So I go to church on Sundays at 10 a.m. Period, point blank dot. I go to church on Wednesday nights at 7. I have rehearsal on at night. So this is my schedule. And then if any man come and be like, well, you know my schedule and you're trying to get me like once or twice, like, okay, but if you constantly trying to get me away from this and my time I spend with God, if I spend time with God every Saturday morning at 12 p.m. and you're trying to make these dates, like you're trying to pull me away from my strength. And that is definitely a red flag. Let me hurry up, y'all. So your identity being established in Christ. So if you don't know who you are before a relationship, more than likely the relationship is going to give you your identity. Like most of us, because we didn't have a father in our home, the world and life has given us our identity. If you don't know that God is Abba and God is Father, and I'm going to do a new series probably next month about God being our Father. But if you give me a second. If you know that God is your Father and you're his son or you're his daughter, whatever happens in life, whether he leaves you or not, you're unchanged, like you're unfazed by it, because you know that my identity is rooted in God and not this relationship. Like if he never tells me beautiful, never calls me beautiful, my world doesn't stop. The world doesn't stop revolving. Like if he doesn't do certain things for me, like I'm not going to end my life. Like before I got to this place, I would be so devastated when guys would leave me. But I told God I'll never get to that place ever again, because I know that God is overflowing in my life. So what you do or do not give me, whether it's friendship or relationship, I'm not going to become empty, because God is constantly flowing me. And even when I pour out to you, God is constantly flowing me. There's constant flow in me. You understand what I'm saying? So I remember just being in college and my ex broke up with me during senior year exams. And I didn't want to come out my room. My friends tried to take me, go out to eat. I couldn't sleep. I was just a hot mess, completely devastated. No relationship you get in should ever make you that devastated. And I realized, you know, where I am today, that was always in me. That was just the fruit of the seeds that were planting in me. So God was allowing me to see you weren't ready for a relationship then. He knew that was going to happen. He knew that those seeds were going to grow, because this is what this relationship was watering in me. And when he left, these are the fruits of it. This is the fruits of my abandonment. This is the fruit of my rejection. This is the fruit of my father wounds. This is the fruit of the abuse. This is the fruit. So think about it. These are the fruit. Like addiction doesn't just happen. Addiction is the fruit of something in your life, for a mistaken identity, misplaced identity. So when you get with somebody, you're both supposed to be completely filled, and God is constantly flowing in your life. So when he's pouring into you, he doesn't get empty. He doesn't get to the place where it's his his life is decreasing. Is that the word I'm looking for? Or what's in him, his peace, his peace of mind, his joy, is it diminishing in relationship with me because I'm filled? I'm not emptying him in order to be in my life. But when you're dating toxic, when you're dating with soul ties, that's all that's happening. You are stripping this person. You are pulling all of what's in them and they're becoming empty. You're not supposed to become empty in a relationship. Even if a relationship ends because God's saying that this isn't a relationship, you're not supposed to be empty because your identity is not in them. It's in Christ. So, my camera died, but we're back. I'm so glad that God has now allowed me to know who I am in him. So when a guy leaves, or if it's not the right relationship for me, I don't crumble. Like, I don't lose myself. I don't lose my mind. I'm still the person who God called me to be. Like, a relationship doesn't change my identity. A relationship is not supposed to change your identity. It's supposed to improve you and make you better, but it's not supposed to change who you are, because if you already are in Christ, he's in Christ, you become more like Christ. You understand what I'm saying? So that's one. And then number 5, know your purpose. Which goes with some other things, but know your purpose. Know your purpose. So when you know your purpose, that also gives you clarity in who you're dating. Because, and another, I think, I'll insert that book right here. I was reading a book and it was saying how when you, it was actually Pastor Tori Roberts. If you don't know your purpose, you end up getting into relationships, and down the road, you find yourself having to compromise your purpose for your relationship, or either your relationship for your purpose. You choose from purpose. Like, if there's a man that you meet that doesn't know his purpose, he's not ready to date. If you don't know your purpose, you're not ready to date. Because there's an assignment. Like, a marriage is an assignment. Marriage is ministry. So if y'all are trying to get married and God has called y'all to 2 separate parts of the earth, then what are you going to do? Somebody's going to have to neglect their purpose, or the relationship is going to be neglected and eventually just fall apart. So know your purpose. I remember when God told me, as I'm drawing near to him, know your purpose and even have a firm foundation in your relationship with God. And God was explaining to me how when I am growing closer to him, I automatically prepare myself for my spouse, because I'm becoming everything that he wants me to be, and I'm in his will. And when I'm in his will, our relationship will come together at his perfect timing. So along with knowing the purpose, knowing your purpose, you also must understand the season. Understand the season that you were in. 2019, like, although God prophesied to me last year that, I would be getting married. Okay, cool. I knew I was ready to date, because back in the day, if God told me I was ready to get married, or that I was going to get married, my whole mindset would have been on, I got to get this relationship. Like, this relationship is mine. Like, what it say? The blessings is mine. I'm going to go get it. I would have gone and got it. If God told me where my husband was, I was going to knock on his door. I was going to be at the same restaurant. Like, I would have been so relationship focused that I'd have left God completely. But when God told me in 2018 that I would get married, I was like, okay, cool. I didn't try to ask God, okay, what time, what day, where should I be? Because, like I said, prior to me finding out about my prophetic words, just prior that day, I told God, if I never get married, I'll be okay. So God knew my heart. God knew my heart. Maybe that's because I said that to God a couple times before. But I think when I said at that time, God was like, oh yeah, she means it. So know your season. And this 2019, friends were asking me to go to a singles conference. I'm just not interested. I'm so interested in my purpose and doing what God has called me to do. Like, I'm not really, like, God, when it happens, it'll happen, And I used to, be on Married and Young with Jamal and Natasha. I just have no interest in that this year or right now. And it's okay. Like, it's okay, So I know the season that I am in. With knowing the season, you must also know God's voice. And you know God's voice by having a relationship with him. I remember trying to get closer to God. And I thought God told me that this particular guy was my husband. I knew he was my husband, okay? I knew he was my husband. But when you don't know the voice of God, you will create a belief system in your head and then attach God to it. When God ain't saying that. God did not tell me that young man was going to be my husband. My soul told me that. What I wanted told me that. My consciousness told me that. What was before me told me that. The guy's character didn't show me that he was my husband. What he was doing didn't show me he was my husband. I looked at the situation. I said, this is what I want. And I said, oh, God said, God didn't tell me that. God didn't tell me that. So you have to know God's voice. You have to know the difference between marriage and ministry. Like, you need to know when God is calling you to speak into somebody's life and when God is calling you to be somebody's wife. You need to know the difference between when God is calling you to speak into somebody's life or when God is calling you to be somebody's wife. You must know the difference. That's going to keep you from a whole lot of hurt. That's going to keep you in a place of clarity. Like I said, the last guy that tried to talk to me, I said, God, what's his purpose in my life? God, show me what's hidden. God, show me what it is about this guy. When God shows you, please don't go and say stuff like, God, I need a sign, and then God shows you, oh, that can't be God. God is showing you. Open your eyes. Do not ignore your intuition. Do not ignore what God is showing you. If you believe every man is it, okay, I already said that. If you're still holding on to your ex, you are not ready to date. Let that man go. Break them soul ties. Get rid of the gifts that he gave you. If you're holding on to anything that man gave you from years ago, you are still stuck in your past, and that is something that you need to take out of your luggage that you're trying to bring into this new relationship. Cut that relationship off. Whatever he bought you, throw it away. Completely get rid of it. Like, I remember when God told me to even get rid of the things that I slept with my ex in. Even remember when God told me to get rid of like lingerie and underclothes that I slept with guys in. I remember throwing it all away. I got rid of every soul tie. I got away because God was telling me, oh, this would be another good video. Throw it away. It's going to be what it's called. Because I remember having different things, and God was like, do you want to know why you can't seem to let this guy go? And I was like, yeah. He said, you're holding on to everything that tied you to him. You have to get rid of it. It's calling you. It's luring you. And you don't even know it. Like, it is like present temptation. Every time you see it, that's what you remember. I threw away underclothes. I threw away lingerie. Listen, throw it away. Okay, sis? All right, brother? If you got gifts from them, y'all ain't together. That only makes you feel like you got to hold on to it. Like, I can't imagine me coming into my boyfriend's life and he got a picture of him and his ex, you know, this guy that's trying to court me, on his fireplace. Sir, what is that? Who is that? Your ex? Okay, yeah, you're not it. It's okay. You're just not ready, and it's okay. Once you get to that place where it's like the guy that you wanted, and you realize that it's not it, or it's okay, and you have that mentality of, oh, it's okay. You are ready. You're more ready than others. Okay. Because, I mean, it's like the same thing. A picture. Okay, a teddy bear. Why do you still have the teddy bear that they bought you 10 years ago? Why are you holding on to that? Shoes. Like, why are you still holding on to these things? Like, that's just me personally. I may have gone too far with the shoes, but you're constantly reminded about what this guy gave you. And if I ask you about your shoe, oh, my ex, I personally would feel some type of way. Like, leave me a message in the comment section below if I'm doing the most. Like, if I'm doing too much, let me know. But that's really something I'd be like, oh, okay. I see. I got your ticket. I got your number. Yes, I do. Okay, so know his will for your life. So know your purpose, know his voice, know the season, and know his will for you. Know his will for you. So that's all I got for today. I hope that you liked that video. That was fun. I like this video. I think this is going to be another good one. I changed my room around. I may have to do a video about that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, please, please share this video with somebody that you know that needs to hear this, who may be asking, like, am I ready to date yet? Am I ready? How do I know when I'm ready? How do I know from a young person's perspective, someone that I can be relatable to? Send them this video. You know, and if you're not doing it yet, I don't know what you're doing, but make sure that you follow me on all of my social media. Facebook and Instagram. Right here. Make sure that you're following me. Make sure that you're following me. And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure that I have mob friends on Facebook. Make sure that you become a member. Make sure you become a mob friend, minding our business on Facebook. Make sure that you're booking me. Make sure you're telling somebody about what I have going on. Like, if you want me to come speak at your church or one of your workshops or your events, make sure that you're booking me. I am accepting booking engagements all 2019. Make sure that you stay tuned, because I'm writing my book about fatherlessness, how I overcame it and how I forgave my father in my process. I have a workshop coming up on March 2nd that I will begin to give you more details about that in the time to come. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you come back next week, same day. Different time. Okay, so I love you guys and have an amazing day.